We're good to go whenever.
Welcome back, gang, to the First the Worst podcast. I'm Brendan Murphy.
And I'm Steve Arendis.
And Steve, we deal a lot in kind of nostalgia and sentiment for our younger years on this show. But I think of all the topics we've touched on, this one really does do the most in those areas for me. Because this is something I loved so much between the ages of like 7 and 11, and then again between like 14 and maybe 16.
Yeah, those are the right time frames. Yeah, I learned a lot about myself making this list. I actually did, I feel like.
So today's list is top 10 wrestlers.
Yeah.
I had concerns. None
of that amateur garbage.
I had concerns. We try to be like pretty non-sporty and certainly like appeal to all listeners. I had a little concerns that this one was too basically this was a hobby I had as a little boy. So this one was a little bit man-centric, but I still think it will be hilarious, so please keep listening.
I agree. And whatever, we are men, so some things will be man-centric. We did a Kardashian podcast, dude.
All right, yeah, and good point.
We're at our bases covered.
We also did do a macro brew tasting. The wine tasting would be hilarious, though.
Yeah,
that is going on the list of lists
to get us like some good wines and some bad wines and see if we could possibly tell the difference.
I think that one's that feels like a summer list, but maybe not for this summer.
Could be winter. People like to sit back at a fire with a glass of wine. Come on.
Well, and then there's also ice wines.
Oh, what? Those don't sound good.
No, they don't. It sounds like Canada is trying to get in on the game.
Yeah. So with this wrestler thing, I just rated like my favorites. There's no deep wrestling analysis here from me. It just has to do with how much I liked them when I was younger during the times I watched wrestling, which I would agree with that same time frame. I would say like when I was a little kid and then like mid 90s, mid to like late 90s, but not like super late. I don't know what those years are exactly, but you know the eras we're talking about.
Yeah, so we might have not had the exact same eras because like year 14 to 16 is kind of like when I would have been a little bit out of it. Like I never really liked WCW, and that had a nice push.
Oh yeah, that's part of it. WCW had a nice push.
I mean, when Hogan went over,
it
was a big part of it. But I was never really watching when that was going on. For instance,
you never got into the NWO,
and that was their like golden era, the NWO versus WCW.
Yeah, that great video game, by the way. My all-time favorite Nintendo 64 game over GoldenEye.
It is a great video game, but I would still say the best arcade game ever is a wrestling game, and I think it's called WrestleMania.
Yeah, I know the game you're talking about.
I clearly could have looked this up, and I'll do it now, but it was like at the Pontiac Silverdome where they had WrestleMania 3. Let's just get going because I'm going to just talk and talk and talk. This is going to be like This is going to be like a Ken Burns podcast.
I could have made like a 50 wrestler list. All right. So I guess then. Also, I just want to talk about how I learned a little something about myself here.
Yeah, this is good.
Brendan commonly refers to me as a sports hipster, and other ones of my friends comment on how I like weird athletes and things, and they don't understand why I like certain guys I do. And I don't know if wrestling made me this way or if this is when I first discovered it, that I kind of like bad guys sometimes. I want my athletes in real sports and sports entertainment to entertain me. I don't care I don't want the best player. I don't like the best player just because he's the best player and he's a good guy. That's boring as shit. I want somebody who can entertain me on and off the field. And that's kind of how I was in wrestling. And I think that's shaped how I like certain athletes and don't like certain athletes today.
Like you like the Patriots when they
love the Patriots.
That is, if anything, a team of wrestling bad guys.
Oh yeah, they're total heels. It's amazing. Yeah. Like Belichick, he's like the manager, like the wrestling manager who doesn't actually wrestle. But
he's like Ted DiBiase.
Oh, get ready, I'll talk. There's gonna be some Ted DiBiase talk later in this podcast.
Oh, God, you have Ted DiBiase on your list? Of course you do. You're a terrible person.
I love the $1 Million Man. Okay, you just started off. Our list might be very different.
I think they are because I root for good in the world.
Well,
I really don't want to hear your thoughts on the war on terror after this, but
that was our
too
second
soon.
podcast. If you want to go back to it,
Yeah, God, that was horrible. That was Ken Burns. Like, it went on forever. It was full of facts and no entertainment. I went with a guy who, now because you're unconventional, you might not have him on your list. I would assume that most people that are kind of of our era would have him a lot higher than 10. But I didn't like him as much as everyone did. He was kind of the Phil Mickelson to Hogan's Tiger Woods. That's the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, Warrior's on my list. I was into the Warrior back in the day. You can see like my like taste kind of changed with time.
I will say this for the Warrior. I started watching like right around the time that he and Hogan had their big good guy versus good guy match.
Yeah,
which was a totally hard thing for like an 8-year-old to comprehend. Like they really did just set it up that it was black and white. Usually, like one guy's good, one guy's bad, no gray area. But this one was like so chock full of gray area. You didn't know how to react, and the Warrior won, and they were hugging and holding each other's hands up, and it was very strange.
When we were little kids, it was very black versus white, and then that second era you talked about became a lot more shades of gray.
There was a lot more team flipping.
Yeah.
In that second era.
All right. Yeah, I'll talk some Warrior talk later. I was really into him when I was a little kid. I can't lie about it. There might be a Warrior wrestling buddy at my parents' house somewhere. So my number 10. Well, first I want to shout out to a couple honorable mentions. One, a wrestler you probably don't know about because you had cable and weren't forced to watch the wrestling on the Spanish channel sometime. And his name was La Parka, and he was in WWF and WCW too, and in this weird like luchador crap. And he wore like a skeleton outfit, and he always carried a chair with him. And he was the only one of those like luchador dudes who wasn't little, and he would do goofy dances to hit guys with chairs. And I loved him when I was little. And the other one was Goldust because that was just the weirdest dude ever, and I kind of weirdly liked him.
That guy was weird. That guy was like some sort of cocaine dream that someone had if you could sleep while you're on cocaine, which I don't think you can.
And I feel like he was only a bad guy because he was kind of homoerotic, and back then that was bad.
Yes. There's a lot of things that like now if they try to pull it off.
Oh, everything was so racist and so bad back then. It still kind of is probably. I mean, I don't watch. What was the last time you watched wrestling?
Oh, very long time. But I still have friends who are 30 that like watch it on the regular.
Watch it. I mean, am I going to get back into it if my son wants to start watching it? I don't know. I can't say no to that. My wife doesn't want to hear that probably, but who knows? I watched it once like 6 years ago, and then just like one episode, and then before that it was probably like what we were talking about before, like mid to late 90s. All right. So then my number 10 and 9, Snake Draft style. Number 10 is a tag team. They're my favorite tag team, so I'm putting them on here together. And they went by a couple names. The Road Warriors / the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal. I don't know. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
They were
I remember them.
Pads with spikes on them.
They were cool and scary, and I thought at one point there was a third guy in that.
I feel like one of them died, I think, which is a trend in wrestling.
And one of them is James Laurinaitis' dad.
Yeah, the football player. Yeah, one of his dad. Yeah, I think Animal's his dad. I think Hawk died. Hawk was the one that did more jumping in the air. They had like some move where like one of them would hold a guy and the other one would jump off the turnbuckle. And it was cool.
They were cool tag teams. I don't know if they're themed tag teams like there were then. You know, you had guys that like looked like twins, like the Bushwhackers.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Rockers who were like jumpers. The Road Warriors who were kind of jumpers.
One of them was a jumper. Yeah, it was like more like ground and air together combo there. But I just like when I was a little kid, I was like into the face paint and like the cool spiky football pads. They look like Oakland Raiders fans basically.
Yeah. No, they were cool.
But they didn't have one of the best things, which is like how funny they were when they're like talking was a big part of this for me. And this is where you're going to start hating me already. That's on my number 9. So this guy isn't really a wrestler, but he did wrestling matches, but he was very much a part of the WWF because he.
I definitely thought of putting this guy on
because he runs the WWF.
And
it's Vince McMahon.
Okay. I honestly thought you were going with Jerry the King Lawler.
Jerry's great too.
I very much ponder Jerry the King Lawler.
But like Vince is like a character on, even though he's the owner of like the thing of the WWE or whatever. I'm gonna call it WWE and WWF like interchangeably through this, like because it was WWF when I watched it. He was just like the ultimate bad guy. Just like the boss of everybody, and then just coming in and rigging matches, which were clearly already rigged, but like making it known that he was like stifling guys' chances, and just his great No Chance theme music. Theme music's a big part of who I like too, I think.
Yeah,
but he definitely like roided up for some bouts.
Oh man, Vince McMahon was. I don't even think you have to like make a caveat. He was definitely a wrestler. Dude was huge.
Yeah, like he didn't start that way though. He like kind of just got into it, right? Like in like
yeah, but like when he was getting in the ring, he looked like a wrestler.
Yeah, he was gigantic. I loved Vince, and then he had like his like son who like sucked, Shane. But I feel like his daughter.
I just remember. I remember the Greenwich Posse
with Triple H.
Like
Triple H was part of that. That's how he came into it all. Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He was like a rich kid.
Well, I remember Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And I was like, what a terrible gimmick this is.
Yeah.
I love guys who go through like 4 identities.
And now he's just Triple H. He's married to Vince McMahon's daughter, which I think is real life too.
Yeah, I think they started dating when she was
probably
too young. The rumor goes.
But yeah, Vince was great. All right. Who's your number 9?
My number 9 is a guy who's still really famous. He's on Ballers, as you like to call it, Black Entourage.
Blantourage.
I went with The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock is great.
I mean, okay, so to be great at this, there's some combination of acting and showmanship and skill, and I definitely think he has all those things.
As far as I'm concerned, like actual wrestling skills below acting and showmanship, and like how much.
Yeah. I don't want to like people hate certain wrestlers. A guy not on my list, but who I always kind of liked when I was watching wrestling that everyone seems to hate is a guy named X-Pac. Also did the sex tape with China.
Oh yeah. Like every member of his posse is on my list but him.
But like I don't understand why people hated him. I guess he wasn't a good wrestler, but I thought he was pretty fun to watch. He started out as the 1-2-3 kid.
Yeah, the 1-2-3 kid, and then when he switched leagues, right? They like it's something to do when when they would go from WCW to WWF, like they wouldn't have the rights to the name or some shit, and they would have to have like a different gimmick.
But I liked that guy. He's not on my list, so I won't go into more detail. But it's just like real wrestling fans hate X-Pac.
He just like jumped around and stuff, and just like
I guess the thing is like
said "suck it" all the time. But a lot of guys on multiple guys on my list said "suck it" all the time.
Which was hilarious.
Yeah, when you're like 15.
So that was D-Generation X, and actually, when The Rock kind of came in, that I can remember him being. He was part of something called the Nation of Domination, which I don't even think they could do today.
It's like Nation of Islam.
It was totally like, it was like Elijah Muhammad type shit, and it was him and 2 other X was like 3 white guys, and everyone hated the Nation and loved D-Generation X, even though they were just like they were just like waving their dick in your face.
Yeah, except The Rock became the biggest star out of all of those in the end. I mean, he became a bigger star when he ditched the Nation of Domination.
Shawn Michaels was part of.
Yeah. You're frozen.
You got me?
You're frozen. Yeah, it froze right as you were saying Shawn Michaels.
Okay. Okay, I will. Is that cool?
Start back up whenever.
Well, if I recall, Shawn Michaels was actually part of that D-Generation X, or DX as they called them, and but he was already established as a star.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of Shawn Michaels talk later.
He's on the list for me as well. But okay, my number 8. This is when I say that I used to love this so much. I would go to summer camp, and my parents would send me wrestling magazines, but they didn't know like which wrestling was which.
You get the WCW ones? You didn't know.
No, they would send me like the independent wrestling magazines that were in black and white and about like matches in Japan. And one guy who was
probably in those at one point too.
Well, Cactus Jack Mankind was definitely in those.
Mick Foley. He had like 8 different dude. He had some dude one too, right? Like,
Dude Love or Dude
Love. That
was Love. Dude of Life was a guy who used to write songs with Fish.
Yeah, his bit was he was like really extreme, kind of.
Yeah, I feel like the movie The Wrestler, of all the guys that
Yeah.
kind of, it's pretty well documented that once you're done wrestling, they think the NFL is bad.
Oh yeah.
Way worse.
You go so crazy that you murder suicide your whole family.
Yeah, Chris Benoit when he did that. But this guy of all the guys is the one who I think has the most like that existence. Like he was just constantly like jumping into beds of nails and shards of glass.
Yeah, it was so stupid.
He set himself on fire once, I think.
Yeah, like for real, set himself on fire.
Yeah, just like the shit that Mick Foley did was insane. So you kind of had to love it.
I feel like the WWF like made like an extreme championship belt just to like get him into more bouts.
Oh, totally. And he also had a wrestling match at halftime of a Super Bowl against The Rock.
What? When was that?
It was like 2000-ish, because I definitely was in high school when it happened. It was like they did it exactly as long as the Super Bowl halftime show.
Oh, like it was on another channel. I gotcha. I was like,
yeah.
what?
Oh, yeah. Pardon me. Yeah.
I was like, what?
I remember flipping away for 2 Super Bowl halftime shows. One because in Living Color,
yes,
had
that
the
one was
halftime
awesome.
show in 1991, and then this was like around 2000 or so.
Yeah, the Living Color.
The Rock. Awesome. He pinned The Rock with a forklift to win.
Of course he did. All right, so
but that part was clearly pre-recorded.
Yeah. It wasn't like live somewhere because they had to fit the time slot.
Yeah.
All right, so am I on number 8 now?
You would be.
All right, I put 2 guys. I kind of cheated and put 2 guys. They tag teamed together a lot, but they weren't necessarily a tag team. And I've talked about one of them on the podcast before. It's Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, also known as Big Sexy and Razor Ramon. For the ladies, you might know Kevin Nash as the giant guy in the Magic Mike movies. He's
also Diesel, right?
Yeah, Diesel. He had like a bunch of nicknames, right? Yeah, he was like my favorite of the giant wrestlers. I was never really I don't really remember a lot of Andre the Giant, to be fair, and I was never into the Big Show.
So when I make a list, what I do is I put all the candidates down on paper, and then I just rank them.
Like, yeah, I kind of do that too.
So I get a full candidates. So I thought I only had 11 candidates for this list. I really was choosy, and the one that did not make it was Diesel.
Oh, really? Okay. I mean,
so I'm a fan.
Yeah, they were part of like the whole NWO thing in the WCW, when the WCW was cool. So you kind of missed that, but then they came back over into the Degeneration X in the WWF, which was like a big deal.
Yeah, I actually liked the earliest iteration because that was right when I stopped watching. Was around when Diesel and Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were like kind of going after each other.
Yeah, the earlier, but the earlier he was just like Diesel, right? Was like his name, like Big Daddy Cool Diesel, maybe something like that.
But I'm with you. On those 2, and then Scott Hall,
Razor Ramon.
He's also in like a wrestling documentary. It makes you so sad. I mean, all of them make you so sad.
Razor Ramon, yeah, he's a sad character in real life. All right, so then my number 7, I mean, he's the most popular wrestler of all time. It's Hulk Hogan. Number 7. I mean, everybody knows about Hogan.
I put him higher, although I've come to despise him later in my life. I think I had to go with how much I loved him at the apex of my love for him.
When was your apex of love for Hogan? When you were a little kid, right?
Yeah, like WrestleMania 7 when he beat Sergeant Slaughter, who was an American who was rooting for Iraq to win Desert Storm.
Desert Storm, yes, absolutely. Yeah, when you were a little kid, I liked him, and then kind of the Warrior took his thunder for me. And then he became kind of cool again with the NWO stuff in WCW.
The Warrior had such a weird career.
He
and I know we're not trying to break it down too much depth, but he was just gone for periods of time.
Did he die?
Long ones.
I feel like that guy.
He's not.
Okay,
he did die
by multiple
but
people.
Like last year, one guy.
Oh, was
he died like last year or 2 years ago, but there were rumors that he died since like 1995.
Well, I mean, the Undertaker buried him alive. As a little kid, I thought he was dead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I cried when Macho Man Randy Savage lost a career match.
It was like it was really going to be his career.
He was my. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I was very, very upset, and I'm trying to remember who he lost it to. I think it was Jake the Snake.
Oh, I can see that. That makes sense. I remember the retirement matches. They would just go on like their 6-month sabbatical and come back later. There'd be some loophole.
It was like you need to get back surgery, so you're getting a career match,
and then there'd be some loophole to get them back into the thing, right? Like I never remember how they got back in. They'd just be back. They'd be talking trash to somebody or something. But yeah, Hogan. I mean, he was just like I think he's probably one of the first guys who was really good at talking on the microphone, and that's what made him popular.
I mean, he was it really did coincide with a lot of different things, like the way people were marketed in like the 80s. It was like, like Jordan and Gretzky and Bo Jackson. Like he was kind of that ilk, although not a real athlete. Like
for sure. Yeah.
He was no one was ever popular like that. Never will be again, because what the other change is that the brand will never let a guy get bigger than the brand. And this is not just specific to WWF. I think ESPN is like this. So
yeah, for sure.
They'll just keep you in your place and be like, hey, if you want to leave.
Yeah. I mean, ESPN is proven to be like that.
The out for wrestlers is wrestling.
Yeah. There's like nowhere else you can go.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, you're right. Vince McMahon won't let that happen. Now, especially that there's like even kind of more of a monopoly than there used to be. Like they always had the option to go to WCW in the past. Like
yes, which they then, I mean, since it was bought out.
Yeah, and now there's like other wrestling like shows and things, but none of them are as big as WCW was as a second option for guys to go to. So it's not a real option, really, I don't think. Unless they just like go to like try to like do like Ultimate Fighting. Which some of them do.
Well, some of them have come from that and gone back to it.
Yeah, usually those guys who do that, there are guys who have like real like wrestling and like fighting backgrounds that then went to WWF. They're not just like The Miz. Who like I should talk about The Miz. Probably one of my favorite wrestlers who I've never seen wrestle just because I love the challenge.
Yeah, I mean that guy is the greatest success story in the history of the challenge.
Yeah, he achieved his dream. He was WWF champion.
That guy was WWF champion?
Yeah, I looked it up. He achieved the ultimate dream of his life.
Have fun.
I mean, he's the most successful person from the real world, and that's including the guy who's like a senator now.
Yeah.
Or like is he a senator or in the House?
I think he's just a House representative, but and married to another real worlder.
That's great.
What's that? Sean something.
Yeah, Sean. Minnesota? Is he from Minnesota? Yeah. Or do I assume anybody?
I think he's from Minnesota, but he's represented in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Rachel from Real World San Francisco. I'm not looking at Wikipedia. I just know these things.
Yeah, he was into log rolling. I know that about him too. He competed in Great Outdoor Games, which I've been to live, by the way. So are we over to you now?
We are. I may have lost you here, though, buddy.
Okay.
I got you back. I probably didn't need to say that. Sorry.
It's fine.
We are, and my number 7 is a guy who I think you'll definitely be talking about. We won't go into too much detail on him. Is Shawn Michaels.
Oh, yeah.
The sexy boy.
The sexy boy.
Really, really, really gay entry music.
Oh, that's the best. I want it to be like my intern's music. If I was a baseball player, that'd be my at-bat music.
I think someone did that.
I believe it's hard as you think I'm cool, you know I'm sexy. Is the first line of the song, right?
Yeah, and he's just it's like spoke.
I'm just a sexy boy.
Over like even though this was in the mid-90s.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just a sexy boy. I'll be your boy toy. Like weird lyrics like that.
He also was in the Rockers.
Yes.
Which are like the all-time Simon and Garfunkel situation because Marty Jannetty was nothing.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels is a all-timer.
Yeah.
Also did like all kinds of like legendarily long matches, steel cage matches and ladder matches and things of that ilk.
And I think was he the winner of one of the most famous wrestling matches of all time? The one that
the Bret Hart one,
yeah,
that
the Montreal Screwjob. I think I watched a documentary about that once.
That's a total 30 for 30.
It should be if it's not one, yeah. If they're willing to put wrestling on a 30 for 30. What actually happened that day? Yeah, we'll talk more about Shawn Michaels later.
To the Bret Hart's last match where Vince McMahon just screwed Bret Hart out of what was supposed to be a last victory in WWF because the two did not get along.
Yeah, but he didn't want a guy retiring as a champion, so he screwed him. And supposedly Shawn Michaels didn't know that it was happening, but who knows if that's true or not. And then the ref just like quick counted to get the 3 count.
Imagine being that ref. God, this would be a great documentary if it's not already.
Amazing. Plus the interviews with all these weird wrestlers would be great. Vince McMahon would never do an interview about it, though. It'd be like the Fab Five when we're
unless it was like a WWF documentary.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't believe it, right?
Yeah. Documentaries suck compared to the 30 for 30s.
Yeah. Maybe Simmons will do it when he signs his contract with HBO and starts doing documentaries and stuff.
That is going to be weird.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work.
My number 6 is Andre the Giant.
Okay, see, I don't know tons about him, so you could talk. For some reason, I miss out on him in my life.
I don't know a ton about him, but I do know that he's the biggest person I think who's ever done wrestling, and that's saying something. He was 7'4", 500 pounds.
Yeah, you ever see? There's like pictures of his hand holding a beer can that are amazing.
I mean, his legend is way before our time, but I do remember seeing the footage of that body slam where Hulk Hogan threw his back out.
Yeah,
He might have tore every muscle in his back body slamming him at WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, the greatest WrestleMania.
And I just love that he taught his voice. I mean, this is totally enhanced by The Princess Bride.
Yeah,
I didn't like that much, but I've seen a lot.
I saw The Princess Bride for the first time like 3 months ago. Kind of enjoyed it.
It's a total chick flick.
Yeah, my wife loved it. That's why I watched it. That's why she loves Andre the Giant too.
So that's I don't really have a lot to say. He was kind of a lovable giant.
Isn't there some story about him drinking like 1 million beers?
Yeah, there's one about Wade Boggs too.
Yeah, they both have some weird beer stories. I'll try to find the picture of Andre the Giant holding beer.
Which is that Wade Boggs drank 50 beers on a cross-country flight.
Yeah, and he's like not that big of a dude.
I don't believe that one for a second.
I don't either. I don't believe it at all. There's no way.
Like 25? That's fucking insanely impressive.
Maybe they were like those light beers from like Ohio, where like in Ohio, like light beers have to have less alcohol than they do here.
3.2 beers.
Yeah, it was something like that.
They have that in Oklahoma too.
Do they? That sucks.
They have 3.2.
They have 3.2 what?
That's all the.
You cut out.
It's been rough tonight.
Yeah, it's been rough. You cut out there. Yeah, you said you were cutting out when we were talking about 3.2 beers.
So they call that 3.2% alcohol beers, which is like 2 IPAs at this point. And
yeah,
they have places like Oklahoma and Michigan. They're 3.2 bars, although maybe they don't have those anymore.
They have 3.2 bars where they can only serve 3.2 beers.
Andre the Giant's bar tab for a month's stay at the Hyatt London during the filming of The Princess Bride was over $40,000.
That's amazing. And you know that was just like cheap beers.
I mean, this was like 1980. 6.
Yeah, this isn't like bottle service.
That's a lot of money.
That's amazing. So is that Andre? Was he your number 6 there or 7?
He was my number 6. Yes.
All right. So then I'm on to number 6 here, and it's just the Warrior, the Ultimate Warrior. We talked about him. I loved him when I was little. He was just like he didn't really do much. Though. He was just kind of like in retrospect, he was just kind of like crazy, right? I feel like he was just on a lot of cocaine.
I think that's why everyone assumed he was dead. He never. His talking was just yelling, incomprehensible gibberish.
Absolutely.
At the microphone.
Yeah, and I remember him more like you remember that thing with Hogan. I remember him more having a feud with the Undertaker and Paul Bearer.
And actually, I looked this up. He was the guy who won the career match against Macho Man.
Okay, that makes sense. I feel like I kind of remember that. Not that I watched the pay-per-view, but I feel like I saw the clips of it on like some other show.
Oh, I didn't used to get the pay-per-views. I maybe got to get like one a year.
My parents were not about letting me get the pay-per-views for wrestling.
No, it also was a much different process than it is now.
You'd like call. Well,
now
I didn't have cable
buttons.
for a lot of that time, right? Like I didn't even have cable. I was like, I don't get pay-per-views.
We had to get when my dad wanted to get a boxing match, he had to get a special box. It was the first time we ever had a cable box. And then that kind of opened the floodgates to me getting some pay-per-views.
Oh, nice. That was a big day then.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was doing.
And then my number 5 then is one of my wife's favorite people, The Rock. I mean, so The Rock was very tail end though of my like watching of wrestling. He was very like his like height of fame came like probably like, as I was stopping watching wrestling. I would guess, wouldn't you say?
He was the successor to Stone Cold.
Yeah, they had like a rivalry there, right?
Yeah,
and I kind of liked both of them, so that was kind of tough for me.
Yeah, I mean, The Rock's great. The people's eyebrow, the people's elbow. He had a great persona.
Yeah, and now he's in my favorite movie franchise. So I mean, it is what it is. And he's the star of the second funniest show currently on HBO, Ballers.
After True Detective.
Yeah. I just can't get enough of those shots of infrastructure and highways.
Okay, those are the prettiest shots of the whole show.
It's amazing. We can't really talk about it. I'll try to get caught up so we can have True Detective talk.
I will say I told a friend about your Wes Mantooth Vince Vaughn theory, and she loved it.
I also love that I think Vince Vaughn and that woman, like that red-haired woman, are like on a completely different show. Like we're just gonna talk about like infertility and like how we can't have avocado trees. Like what? Like I don't know what's going on. It's great. I'll get caught up. I'm one episode behind, so I'll get caught up and we can have a serious True Detective talk.
Can't
I've
wait.
never hate watched something more. It's great. So
wait till this season, Chicago Bears.
I was actually thinking this True Detective reminds me of watching a bad Bears season. That's what I feel like when I'm watching it. I was thinking At
least they get a whole new cast every year.
Yeah, I mean, as a Bears fan, like I'm primed for like being able to watch something I know is terrible. So, there's no way any Packers fans are watching this show right now.
No, they're just complaining about how they don't have Matthew McConaughey on this team.
They need their next McConaughey,
which they'll get really soon, and have forever.
Oh yeah, that was the problem. They didn't get to keep their McConaughey for 12 years. All right, what's your number 5? Who's your number 5?
Stone Cold Steve Austin, actually.
Perfect. He's my number 4, so we can just talk some Stone Cold here.
Okay, so I didn't know about the origins of Austin at 316 because I didn't watch when he was first coming in, and I read this and I just loved it so much. Jake the Snake Roberts, who is a notorious meth addict, drug person who is like in the top 5 most depressing. We could have a top 10 list could have been top 10 most depressing wrestlers. That would have been a good one too. And his character was a Bible thumper type. And I guess after Stone Cold beat him in a match, he goes, "You sit there and thump your Bible and say your prayers, and it didn't get you anywhere. Talk about Psalms. Talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 said, I just whooped your ass." And that's where that came from. I did not know that's where that came from, but I love that so much.
To be fair, I owned I at one point in my life owned a foam middle finger of a Steve Austin. I think a Steve Austin
he would just
foam middle finger.
He's like everything I hate. He's like Larry the Cable Guy as a wrestler.
Yeah.
He would come into the ring and just chug light beers,
like slam two together. You could still stone cold beers, like if you ever in a place where you needed to slam two beers together and pour them into your mouth. You can only drink like 2 sips out of any of those beers.
People would go nuts because actually that's like a pretty good representation of the actual people who like wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. You like
in many places
appeal to it. And his music, his entrance music, like when you heard, like when there was like a match going on, you heard like the shattered glass. It was on. It was like the best, it was like the best entrance, like when something else was going on. Like somebody else would be talking and it'd be like, shh. And it was just the best because you knew something else was good. Because he was probably going to run into the ring and just drop eight stone cold stunners on people because he had like the easiest to do finishing move in all of wrestling.
Yeah.
So you can just
think people would see him
in like 2 seconds. Well, another guy on my list has a really easy one. But yeah, Stone Cold was awesome. And like he got really hurt, right? And that's why he kind of went away.
I think he had like a really bad neck injury.
Yeah, and then he like hosts some weird reality show stuff or something about cars or something. I don't know.
Tried to buy the Oakland A's at one point. Fell through. Probably he didn't have that much money. It's probably a pretty good reason that he couldn't buy them.
Could you imagine Stone Cold like and Billy Bean working together?
It sounds like a great plot line.
Moneyball 2.
Him just hating sabermetrics, just wanting tough, gritty guys who didn't give a motherfucking shit.
Oh, he would absolutely like run into the draft room and just drop a stunner on Billy Bean and pick somebody. Except the stunner wouldn't work in real life, and Billy Bean was like, "What the hell did you just do?" I loved Stone Cold. Yeah, but you're right. He was like the perfect like creation to appeal to the fan base.
Yeah.
All right. So who's your number 4? He was my number 4. You're number 5. Who's your number 4?
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Hart did not make my list. I don't know why I never liked him. I think you're gonna have 2 guys in your top 4 that didn't make my list. We'll see. But
I definitely will have one more. I definitely will have one. I think that's accurate because I alluded to one earlier.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure that one of these guys will be on your list. I don't know. He was just a mainstay at the time that I watched more wrestling than anything else. He had some legendary matches.
Part of the Hart Foundation.
The Hart Foundation.
His brother died, right? Being lowered from the ceiling. Owen Hart. I don't know if Owen Hart was really his brother, but like in wrestling, he was his brother.
He was his brother, and Jim the Anvil Neihart was his half brother.
Was he his brother? I thought he was his brother-in-law, or was he his half?
That was the British Bulldog Davy Boy Smith.
Oh, yeah, that was his link to the Hart Foundation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He always wore.
I
those,
don't have like a ton of recollect of him like doing great interviews.
No. He
was really like weirdly pretty and wore pink.
I always felt like he was overrated. He always wore those sunglasses. The coolest thing he had was those like Oakley style sunglasses, but it was just like a band around the back. And you'd always flick them into the crowd. I always thought it'd be really cool to catch his sunglasses if you were like in the crowd.
Oh, dude, anything. If I would be happy to catch Hacksaw Jim Duggan's 2x4 with my face if I got to keep it.
Not on my list, but he was hilarious. Yeah, I just like Bret Hart was kind of, I don't know, he was like a boring superstar to me.
I think probably in retrospect he was, but I'm going at like when time and place kind of an analysis here.
Yeah, I definitely rooted against Bret Hart though in matches, I feel like.
Okay, but there was times where he and Shawn Michaels were like ultimate rivals and they would teeter back and forth as to who was like the one you wanted to win based on the storyline.
Oh, I never teetered in that rivalry.
I just didn't like Shawn Michaels as much as everyone else did.
Oh.
I looked at a list of the top 50 wrestlers of all time when getting prepped for this, and he was ranked number 1, and that shocked me.
Well, looks like somebody's going to have something in common with whoever made that list and me. Spoiler alert, I've been writing large lists of wrestlers and posting them all around the internet for you to read.
Well, it's just trying to validate your list, isn't it? That's so Belichickian of you.
I should be wearing my hoodie right now. So that was your number 4? Was Bret the Hitman Hart? Okay. So then my 4 was Stone Cold. So then we'll go to number 3. Guy you probably don't have on your list because you never really got into the WCW. But it's the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
He, after the fact, I did go through and think about people that I missed, and Ric Flair was one that I thought of, but his WWF legacy is not great.
No, it's not. But he's so entertaining. He's everything I really want in a wrestler. Besides, like, I could do without the flabby man boobs that he had later in his career. But this dude, probably the best dude talking. And he, according to LeBron James, he invented swag. So, I mean, that's pretty good.
LeBron James doesn't know anything about swag.
Professional athletes love Ric Flair, though.
And the Cubs, he's like their guy this year.
Yeah, rappers and professional athletes. Yeah, other teams have adopted him before, like with the going to Space Mountain thing.
Oh yeah, it's like Steve Perry and Journey.
Yeah.
Every year he's someone's mascot.
Yeah, like the whole Space Mountain thing, because he always just talk about how Space Mountain's the oldest ride, but it still has the longest lines of Disney. When he would like try to talk up himself. So many good lines. To be the man, you got to beat the man. That's a Ric Flair classic.
That's a Ric Flair one.
That's a Ric Flair. Yeah. And
that is an all-timer.
That's an all-timer. People still use that. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, right? Be the man, you got to beat the man. Yeah, Ric Flair. Awesome. It's a nice strut around the ring. Styling, profiling.
Just an unequivocal disaster out of the ring for years.
Such an alcoholic, right? Like
yeah. So more ex-wives than title belts.
Oh,
he's won like 10 titles.
Yeah. Oh, Flair. Very Southern. I feel like he's huge in the South.
Yeah, I think he's from North Carolina.
I feel like he started in like regional wrestling in the South and like grew like I feel like WCW actually started as like a Southern regional wrestling thing.
It had to. Turner is Atlanta.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. All right. So then what am I on? Oh, you're on your number 3.
My number 3 is Hulk Hogan, and I would like to talk about something else. We all know about him. I would like to talk about the fact that I did not know until last week that Hulk Hogan had a sex tape.
Oh, you didn't?
No. And I don't know how I didn't know this, because I'm like a consumer of
pornography.
Well, no, I haven't actually seen it. I don't know if it's actually available, but I am a consumer of that. Thank you. I set you up for that one pretty good. You're welcome.
I have not seen it either, because
I don't think it's out. I think it has really been like very much kept couched. But like I read Gawker and the Big Lead and all those blogs every day.
He's got like a lawsuit against Gawker, doesn't he?
Yeah, so Gawker owns the rights to it, and it's a really strange thing. It's a sex tape filmed by the husband of the woman he's having sex with.
Ooh, a cuckold situation.
Because who doesn't want their wife's inner parts torn up like they're a yellow tank top that says Hulkamania on the front, made in China on the tag?
How small do you think his balls are, though, from all the steroids? That's the only thing I'd be interested in.
I mean, it looks like it's a black and white because I have seen some screenshots, so it might be hard to tell. I don't know if this amateur director got all the good angles.
Well, this guy who was like not only watching Hogan bang his wife, but like was saving a memoir.
This guy was kind of famous too. He was a shock jock in South Florida.
I wish it was Mancow.
Shock jocks are just the best people anyway.
I've never gotten into any of them. I've never even gotten into like Stern. Like, I don't get it.
No, Howard Stern just like gets hot chicks on the radio. It's so pointless. Everything about it is pointless.
Yeah, I assume people who like tweet at like models on like Twitter and Instagram like love Howard Stern. I feel like
totally
same demographic.
Totally.
Same demographic.
The sad man demographic. But I'll say on the East Coast, I was shocked at how much people fucking love Howard Stern.
They love him. People in New York love him. Everybody listens to him, right? I mean,
I don't know if it's changed with the satellite radio thing, but yeah, I mean, they love him.
Now he's one of the hosts of America's Got Talent. Or the
Every once in a while, there will be some sort of news made on his radio show. Like Jason Alexander recently, like kind of ripped on the woman who played Susan on Seinfeld and the Stern show.
So besides all his weird stuff, it seems like he's a good interviewer.
Yeah, that seems to be a fair assessment. Like he's a bigger star than most people he interviews, so that's probably a different dynamic. I guess Letterman and Leno kind of had that going too.
But Leno sucked at it. Letterman was good at it.
No, Leno just sucked. if you're a Leno person, we probably aren't that good of friends.
You're not listening.
You're not listening. Good point.
The Leno people don't know podcasts exist.
No.
All right. So that was your number
3. My number 2. He passed away I'm again, right?
Yeah, your 2.
He passed away a few years back. I talked about him earlier. I think the reason I really loved him is because for Christmas many years ago, there was these toys called Wrestling Buddies.
I talked about how I had a Warrior one.
Okay, I love the idea of this toys because like kids just beat the shit out of toys anyway. That was the point of this toy.
You're Macho Man, right? You didn't. I don't think you've actually said his name.
Yeah, so I had a Macho. I was gonna get to it. I like a good preamble. That's why my joke telling's going so well. So I had a Macho Man and Sean had a Hogan. And we also both got title belts. Sean got the World Championship belt. I got the Intercontinental Championship belt. I don't know what my parents were telling me. They were telling me to keep it in North America with my success, I guess. But I think that is why. And then I met him at a mall. I got his autograph at a shopping mall, which is the most early 90s WWF thing to ever happen.
That's totally, yeah. Can you do a Macho Man impression?
I'm not an impressions guy, but I'll give you an "Oh yeah," which is pretty brutal.
Let me see if I can do it. Ooh yeah,
way better.
I say that because it's like one of the only impressions I can do. Is Macho Man. Did not make my list. I don't remember a lot about him. He was a very high flyer sort, right?
He was. Like, his finishing move was like an elbow drop off the top.
Did he beat his girlfriend like all the time?
I think they died in a car accident together.
No, but I mean, like, as part of the plot line, did he, like, hit Miss Elizabeth?
Well, I liked him when he was a good guy. And actually, I do remember Ric Flair coming to WWF and saying that he had naked pictures of Miss Elizabeth. And that's starting, like, a war between those two.
Oh, that's such a Ric Flair thing to do. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Slim Jims, too.
Slim Jims were a huge ad campaign in the 90s.
Snap into, ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that really did increase his visibility long after his relevance had passed.
Oh man, we're gonna have different number ones. All right. So then I'm gonna go. So I'm on my number 2.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna. This is probably the biggest, probably one of the best bad guys ever in wrestling history.
I'm guessing this is my number 1.
It's the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
What?
Number 2.
Dude, you overlooked an amazing wrestler.
No, I know who you're talking about. I don't like him. Everybody has his price, Brendan.
Somebody's got to pay.
So he would have all these awesome shoots where he'd like be paying people to do things that they didn't want to do. He had Virgil, who was like his
super racist. Yeah, Virgil was his.
He had the $1 Million belt. He made his own belt out of diamonds and gold, they would say.
I love the gimmick of the $1 Million Man, but I'm just shocked that you don't have the guy I have at number 1.
Nah, because my number 1's the greatest wrestler of all time, Shawn Michaels. HBK.
Well, I can't catch my breath.
HBK, the Heartbreak Kid. Started in the Rockers, super kicked Marty Jannetty, ended that because Marty Jannetty was just dead weight. Looked kind of like Steve Perry. Just kick him in the face, end that. Become his own thing, Heartbreak Kid. Then start to Generation X. It's like the coolest storyline for a 15-year-old kid ever. He's the best.
I said suck it more in my life when that was not a possibility than at any other point.
Yeah, any girls who are weirdly still listening to this, if you remember in high school when weird kids were just pointing at their crotches with 2 hands and saying suck it, you could thank Shawn Michaels for that. He was awesome. I think, like, legit, like, bumping into celebrities that I'd be starstruck by, like, Shawn Michaels is very high up the list. Like, I would be very caught off guard by Shawn Michaels being around me.
I mean, you could say that about a lot of wrestlers, though.
Because they're like larger-than-life characters.
They're just so, it would be like if you met a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Wrestlers didn't really feel real, you know?
Yeah, because they weren't.
They weren't, but like those are real people. The Ninja Turtles don't like fly southwest to Albuquerque that I'm aware of.
Yeah, like I think wrestlers, a lot of them, but I was like totally like starstruck. Get to your number one. I think I know who it is.
Okay, actually, it's The Undertaker. And
Yeah.
I have a friend who actually did run into him in Vegas when he was in the middle of a great run at craps. And he's like, I'm on a heater. I'm on a heater. And he walks in. He's just talking to himself. And he goes, I'm on a heater pissing next to The Undertaker. And The Undertaker just laughed. Undertaker's my number one. I was terrified of him at first.
Well, Paul Bearer was
also-
almost scarier than him.
Well, for years, The Undertaker did not talk.
No, because Paul Bearer would talk for him. How many times did the Undertaker die? Do you think? In like the plot,
I should have looked this up.
So many times.
Well, he had coffin matches. That was like his version of the career match.
Yeah, he buried Ultimate Warrior alive. I was just distraught.
Yokozuna coffined him.
Oh, yeah.
Yokozuna was actually a guy that I kind of considered on this list because he was just so hilarious and big.
Yeah, I did too. I think that was like part of like the early heyday. He was like a big part of that, fighting those guys. Did he just like jump his butt into guys' faces?
He would just like, yeah, basically, but he was humongous.
So then didn't like the Undertaker like he was like undead, right? It was his whole bit. But then later on he was like a biker or some crap.
Yeah, that was after I'd quit by then. But I do know
Didn't he just lose finally?
Lost at WrestleMania for the first time. I think that he has a little bit more cross-generation appeal than most wrestlers, than almost anyone we listed, in fact. Because he kind of spanned 2 eras.
Well, he's maybe spanned 3. Right? I think whatever era they're in now is a different era.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
He spanned 3. Because like Shawn Michaels spanned 2 eras, right? But like he's spanned like 3 eras.
Yeah, I mean he's still main eventing.
Like all these guys that wrestle now, like I don't know anything about John Cena. I know he's like in some bad movies and now in the movie with Amy Schumer, but I know he's like a big time wrestler now. Like I don't know anything about a lot of these guys now. Yeah. I only know like the super famous ones. Like I know who John Cena is, and I don't know why. I just do.
I know who CM Punk is, but I don't know anything about him.
I feel like I would have been into CM Punk.
He kind of seems like everyone is though, so maybe not.
Maybe I wouldn't have been. I know. So I think we know about him because he's like from Chicago and he's like around at things. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could talk weird wrestling stuff all the time but without any facts. And if anybody really likes wrestling who's listening to this, they probably hate everything we said too.
Oh yeah, I feel bad for the true wrestling fans. I wish we would have put that at the beginning of the podcast.
You probably hate everything we said. We probably missed.
We need this ratings book for this year. This is our Sweeps Week podcast. Tricked you. Don't know shit about it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna like dive deep into like who has like the best technique in the squared circle, but I am gonna call it the squared circle. It sounds like I know what I'm talking about.
If you think that way, you do not have a girlfriend.
You're also just like watching wrestling wrong. Like it's stupid and fun. Like that's why I liked wrestling when I was a kid. And because they were kind of like, when you were really little, they were kind of like superheroes almost.
Yes, they were.
Like that's like the bit when you're like an 8-9-year-old. You're like, oh, this is awesome. Look at these guys.
See, now I don't even know. Like, it's not even for 8-9-year-olds. There's so much TNA now on it. There's a wrestling called TNA, but like there's so many like just ridiculously attractive, scantily clad women.
You're right. Like I don't even know. Like it's not the same. Like when we were a kid, there was Miss Elizabeth,
who was like a beauty queen.
And like, yeah, and she didn't wrestle.
No.
Well, I mean,
and you thought Miss Elizabeth was beautiful because she was just like a beauty queen, as I said, not because she had like a nice rack, because you didn't really think about that.
Yeah. And you thought she was beautiful because like Hulkster and Macho Man.
All the wrestlers wanted her. Although she was the only woman.
Yeah. Was she the only? Was there any other ones back then? I can't remember any other ones. But now I guess there's a lot of wrestlers, like the lady wrestlers themselves, right? There's a lot of them. But you're right. They all
they're like dating other athletes, and it's weird.
I feel like A-Rod's dated like 8 female wrestlers.
They got the same drug dealers.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks if you enjoyed listening to two guys who know nothing about wrestling talk about wrestling for like 45 minutes. If you want us to talk about something different, you should email us an idea at firstoftheworst@gmail.com or post on our Facebook page, First of the Worst. You should like it. Also, like if you liked the podcast, actually, you should like share the link to the Facebook thing on Facebook. That would be awesome. You can follow us on Twitter at First of the Worst. You can follow Brendan at Shy_Murph or me at Arendas. And subscribe to us on iTunes and all that good stuff. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks as always for listening. Keep the suggestions coming. Keep the Facebook interactions coming. That's all I got.
All right, later.